Welcome to Derails online showcase video. Today we are back at the Sawmill again, and this is because I decided to move operations over from the wheat farm industry chain to the Sawmill. So I'm now doing logging camp, Sawmill, freight depot for the time being, just to make a bit more money and get a few more levels in order to unlock a few important cars. I basically really got tired of using the small plantation cars for the other industries all the time. But yeah, I'll talk a bit more about that later down the line. The important thing right now is that since I wanted to operate this industry, I needed to have a functioning yard layout. So let me take you around the map here, and I mean the entire area, and just really show you guys what I've been building here and how it's all supposed to be working. It's still kind of work in progress, but right now for what I have with my operations, it's alright. Later down the line I may need to make a few more adjustments to make it work better in the long run with longer trains. But yeah, overall this entire area is set up to be a loop. After all, this industry is one that you are going to frequent quite a lot in this game, and therefore I wanted to make operations here a bit more convenient. And having to turn the train around all the time isn't really that convenient, so a loop it is. The incoming and outgoing connections are all on this end, going into that direction. That's towards the freight depot and the logging camp. And the 2% line goes up into the mountains to the new location for the iron mine, as I showed you guys last time. Currently not doing anything with the iron mine yet, but I could definitely start doing that sooner than later. And yeah, coming in here, you are supposed to stay on the left lane. This is going to be the dedicated incoming line. And this is really only important for the loading operations. For the unloading, it's basically you going to the left here and then just having one single track going towards the unloading platform, past it and straight back onto the track back up to the logging camp. Since I don't need to ever have this train going that direction to the iron mine, I decided against making that an option to begin with, and I think this should be quite alright. But yeah, that's how this side is going to work. Eventually, I want to expand the train that I'm using for the log transportation and really go all out with it being super long. After all, the trip to the logging camp is quite long on its own, so in the future I would rather make fewer trips with longer trains, and then this entire area is gonna be a bit of a rolling storage track. So I'll just park the entire train over here, and if I need to unlock a few more, if I need to unload a few more logs, then I'll just move the train a bit further and just get a few more logs to the platform, unload them, and that's gonna be it. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but the same cannot really be said about the incoming line for the loading. So yeah, this is where it's getting important to stay on this track to come in with, because at that point the direction of your train is quite important. So you are going to go through the right hand side, and then as you can already tell, there is two sidings over here. One right next to the loading platforms and the other one just to bypass the entire thing. I may need to add another switch here in the future just to be able to maybe have another track running off into this direction and just giving a long train a bit more area to park on, just so that it doesn't end up going back onto other parts of the network here and just blocking off tracks that I need for other operations. But the idea is that eventually I'll get this helper engine, and that will take the entire train apart from the rear. So it's just gonna disconnect a few of the cars and load those, and once those are all loaded, the helper engine is gonna disconnect from those cars and go around this side again, getting a few more cars from the train, and then just pushing along the ones that are already loaded, and they are supposed to end up on this siding here. Eventually I may also need to move around some of the switches here. I think these may need to go a bit further in this direction, just have a bit more space on this end before any loaded cars come and just block off the switch right here. But that's something to be determined in the future. I'll try out this entire thing and then make my adjustments, and that's how that's all gonna work. Also, the sun is setting a bit quicker than I expected, so let me quickly just reset it to an earlier time in the day. And yeah, in the end, the inside line here is really just for gathering all the loaded cars and then reconnecting them. And with the engine already pointing this direction, it just, I mean the road going engine from the train, it can just drive through here backwards, connect to the end of the train, and then just get the entire thing and get going again. That's also the main point on why it should be coming in on this side. But then again, if I add another siding over here, the entire thing kind of becomes symmetrical, so theoretically it would then work either way, with the only problem being the orientation of the helper engine. So doesn't really matter too much in the end. But yeah, that might be the next step, to upgrade this entire area to make it work a bit better for all of that. But we'll see about it. Next thing, up into the mountains a bit further, is the freight depot. It's seen a tiny bit of an adjustment, something that I also talked about in the last episode, or maybe even one before that. I don't exactly remember when it was, but yeah, I managed to implement the second connection here just to go around and allow a direct connection to the freight depot from that direction there, so we can come in from the sawmill up here and then just go off on to this track to then go towards the freight depot to deliver some stuff. Initially I wanted to actually take this track around the back and then maybe connect to the other side or something. I wasn't too sure about it, but yeah, I want to avoid having another bridge here, but in the end that didn't work out. It kind of all got into its own way, and especially having two sidings here, which I also needed to expand a little, it just didn't really work out with having another track come through here. So another bridge going across here and then coming into this area worked out quite a bit better. In the end, that whole setup is basically a Y, but with the sides switched. So instead of doing the triangle thing, it's kind of going into a tier shape, just looping around in the back, but we are really only supposed to take one side. This one here if we want to go that direction, and this one if you want to go the other one. It's not a problem, it just looks a bit weird, but then again it also helped me make this entire area look a bit nicer. One other thing I wanted to show here real quick is that I now have a second engine. This is the Mosca, and I'm calling it Rosemary, and it's of course part of my Trains Co. company. So this of course stands for Transportation, Railways and Industry Networking Specialists Company, Snow Valley Division. It's kind of a little inside joke that I had because, well, the other two maps are called Pine Valley and Lake Valley. So when I heard about this coming out, the new map, I decided that, of course, logically the name would be Snow Valley, and I kind of at least wanted to keep it in my company name. So that's just a silly little detail. Also, I made sure to start operations with the logging camp and the sawmill with the Monty initially, just to make sure that as an early game option, if you don't have any money for a new engine yet, it still should be working. I think I have like 12 logging cars and Monty had no issues transporting 8 loaded stake cars, so that's all working out quite well. And I think the numbers are good enough that you can actually do this even if you start out. If you want to expand one of the trains a bit further, there's always, of course, the option to sell directly from the logging camp to the freight depot. After all, the trip down to the sawmill is quite a bit longer. But in the end, it already worked like this, and I've never sold logs to this place, so yeah, quite happy with how it's going. But eventually I want to be a bit more ambitious, expand the train, and therefore I need a better engine. I also tried the Class 47. First up, I find it weird that engine doesn't have any display area for the engine name. On the cabin, there's only one for the number, and there doesn't seem to be anything else either where the engine name is being showed on. So that's a bit weird. And in the end, I had some weird little issues with that, partially because I was still using the old cars, and I mean, not the old ones, the small plantation cars, and they tend to derail much quicker. So I decided to go with the Mosca instead. It seems to be a bit more of a gentle engine, especially for those cars, and yeah, it made the entire thing work out a bit better. So another thing I want to quickly show you guys is the logging camp, because after all, doing the operations over here, I of course needed this to be a functional setup as well. I had the track set up over here a while ago, but it wasn't really set up in a way that would be too easy to use. So now we have one switch coming into this area that allows you to choose between the cordwood and the log loading platforms. There's a turntable in between the two lines, and I'll be coming back to this in a moment, because both lines here are set up in a way where coming in with the empties, you are supposed to stick on the left side. Same for that one over there. And then you're just gonna follow this entire thing to the end. Maybe if I get to have a helper engine here, you could also theoretically then disconnect the engine from the rest of the train. And then you are supposed to just drive the engine onto this part of the track, flip the switch, and come around on the other side. So you're coming back on the cordwood side if you came in on the logging side, and vice versa. And that's where you are supposed to get into the turntable and then just turn the entire engine around and come back in reverse from, or just onto the track from where you were before. And at this point you can just do the whole operation with just getting some of the cars loaded, then push the loaded cars onto the other siding, this one of course being one with a stopper at the end. So really only the left-hand tracks are connected to a switch in the end, and the other ones are just stoppers. I may need to expand this quite a bit, considering how long my cordwood trains have gotten in the past, and also how much I want to expand the logging train, but this should be a setup that should be easy enough to expand in the future. Maybe a bit weird with it being on the side of a hill here, but I hope that if I make it past the little outcrop of the mountain here, I can maybe get back to another more even area, although that doesn't necessarily seem to be the case. So maybe I need to go into another direction sooner than later, maybe turning around here or something. There is a lot of space on this area, but it's all kinda uneven, so right now I'm happy to even have what I have here. But yeah, it should be expandable if I need to. In some way, shape or form. I'll just have to make up my mind and find a way to do it. I mean, if bad comes to worse, you may remember what I did in my MIA playthrough to the refinery. That is completely extended part of track where I had all the sidings, and that's something that I could do over here as well. Would have to make sure that it really looks nice, but it shouldn't be impossible. Anyways, yeah, that's the whole idea of logging camp right now. Get the empty train on the left track, go around with your engine, come back, turn it around, and then do all the loading and put the loaded cars onto the right side track. And then just go on your merry way, and right now only to either the Sawmill or the freight depot, but later down the line I also want to have a connection to the iron smelter and maybe also to the stamp mill. I would have to see how I make that happen. Maybe I'm just gonna go to the smelter and then turn around from there or something. I'm also still considering to maybe move the stamp mill, so that's not all set in stone yet. But yeah, this is all that I've done here so far, working out pretty well, and it's maybe gonna be a bit tricky if I want to build upon this in the future. So let's talk about the old cars for a bit, just real quick. So first up, I already need the Mosca in order to move these barrel cars over here. Once they are loaded, they become too heavy for the Monty to pull up here. It just doesn't work with all 12 of them at once. I once tried it and I needed to split the train in half and get one half up here and then get the other one later. So yeah, that was the first reason why a better engine was in order. And the second one was to also make an expensive setup with all the logging stuff. Because after all, I think I've finally outgrown a lot of the smaller cars here. The Sugar Company water tank cars, as they are called here, they can stay. They work pretty well with my setup at the water wells, so I don't mind that too much, even though I could theoretically just go for the larger cars as well. Could potentially make unloading a bit easier. The thing is, one of the larger cars has the capacity of two of the smaller ones, and it weighs about 4 times more, or 3 to 4 times more, so it's not really worth it. But then again, once I have a decent amount of stronger engines, the weight doesn't really matter all that much anymore. So maybe I should just get over it and yeah, replace this train as well. The one that I definitely want to get rid of sooner than later is this one right here for the seed pallets. It's just no fun having to stop the train 12 times for 6 of the pallets each at the freight depot. It's just very tedious loading them. Unloading is alright, but I would much prefer to have some of the boxcars, which I can theoretically buy now, but I cannot buy the amount that I currently want because I also want to replace this train right here. It's been working out quite well, but in the end, while I could keep the bulkhead cars, I don't really have much of a use for any of the small box cars. I may keep them around for now, and maybe in some operations they might become useful, like I had on my MIA playthrough, where just having one of these was a good way to balance the ratios of items that I wanted to transport to the oil field. But yeah, I was against just expanding this train if I knew that the majority of cars are not going to be used anymore. And yeah, just doing this amount of items all the time, it's 20 of each item. It got tedious, it got boring, and that's why I moved over to the logging camp for now. Just to do those operations and have them be a bit more efficient with how they all work out. And once I have the money to replace everything that I want to get rid of here, then I'll go back to the wheat farm and do a few more rounds of that. I think right now, even at level 4, I could have bought a few more of the cattle cars, but for some reason they cannot hold any seed pallets, so that's not really an option. I mean, I get why they cannot hold any of the grain, but the pellets, they really should have fit in here. I mean, if we only could use closed boxcars for the seed pellets, I would have been alright with that, just to keep them away from any bad weather or something. I could see the reasoning behind that, but then again, we can also load the seed pellets onto these fully open and unprotected cars, so I don't know what's up with us not being able to put them into the cattle cars as well. But yeah, that's my little rant about the smaller cars, and I've also seen that some of them sometimes they just derail for no good reason, but right now that also seems to be the case for some of the other cars, and I just wanted to show you guys another example of that. Because I tried to do a bit of a different operation this time around. I brought up the loaded stock cars. I always use the lumber because that's right now giving me more money per car. Plus also needing more logs down at the sawmill, making that whole connection be a bit more usable because I have more demand for it. So the thing is, I tried bringing up the loaded stock cars and the empty logging cars in one train. And in order to do the unloading here and not have anything get in the way of each other, I decided to stop the entire train up here, pull as many brakes off the flat cars as I needed to, and then just disconnect the front part of the train with stake cars from the back and have that roll down into the freight depot. I may have done a bit of acceleration just to get going. After all, this is maybe 1% for the most time, and I think 1.5 for the bridge, something like that. But for some reason, while I think like 12 of the cars made it through, the last 4 for some reason derailed. And this is something that's been happening quite often, and for no apparent reason. This is not the first time I'm using this track right here, and again, the other cars made it through just fine. Just someone in the rear decided to be a bit special and derail for no real reason. I mean, maybe shouldn't have been this tree, but this is really the closest thing to why it could have misbehaved. And it's something that I've been dealing with for quite a few times now on different parts of my entire network here as well. One thing that happened to me yesterday, I was bringing down, I think, it was either the empty stake cars from the freight depot, but I think it was loaded logging cars. And on this bridge right here, which I've been running up and down like 10, 20 times, something of that order of magnitude. For some reason, yesterday at around 20 miles per hour speed, and I was just really letting it roll down here, half the train derailed. Worked out fine before, worked out fine at around 30 miles per hour, but yesterday 20 miles per hour for no apparent reason, completely inconsistent to how it worked before. The entire thing derailed to a point where I really just could only close the game, reload it, and try again. This thing, it's just happening a lot of times. Had it quite a few times down at the sawmill, just going through some switches. And honestly, it's getting on my nerves by now. It's just completely inconsistent. Sometimes I could see maybe being one of my errors, that maybe I pulled the brakes too hard, maybe I accelerated too hard and pulled the cars to the inside of a corner or something. But with what has been happening here, it just seems a problem with the game, and I'll have to see what I do about it, because by now it's really getting on my nerves, and I don't know if I want to proceed playing if I constantly have to do cleanup for no error of my own. So no idea what to do about this. It's it's just happening randomly, and that's just frustrating as all hell. So yeah, that's also been slowing down progress here. Otherwise, a lot of trips would have been quite a lot easier. But anyways, that's gonna be it from me for this video. I just have to try to not lose motivation for the game if it's behaving like this. And yeah, if you have any ideas on what it could be, it's appreciated, but I don't know it. It just seems completely random, and I'll better just end the video here before I just completely end up rambling about it. So thanks for watching, and hope you had a good one. See you guys next time, and bye bye.